Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, lovers and seekers, those who are lost and those who are found. Tonight, we have a special guest fragment from one Caleb Nelson. His fragment sports a headline that reads, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," and the body reads as follows. When you approach life like you're ready to die, then, and only then, do the terms apply. Let's begin. The sentence, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," is a slogan pretending to be a law of nature. It hangs on gym walls and hospital swag as if it were gravity in motivational form. It quietly asserts that every wound becomes a workout. It suggests that every loss becomes a lesson. It implies that every trauma becomes an upgrade. Anyone who has actually been broken knows that the claim is false. Some things that do not kill a person do not make that person stronger. They make that person smaller. They make that person jumpier. They make that person numb. They make that person hard in all the wrong places. Caleb's fragment walks in and adds the missing fine print. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. When you approach life like you're ready to die, then, and only then, do the terms apply. The headline becomes the promise. The body becomes the clause. The fragment turns a cliché into a conditional contract. The crucial phrase in the fragment is ready to die. It has to be handled carefully. Ready to die is not the same as wanting to die. Wanting to die is despair. Despair says that nothing matters and the ending should come as soon as possible. Despair folds the hand and walks off the table. Being ready to die is different. Readiness says that everything matters and nothing is guaranteed. Readiness accepts that death is scheduled somewhere on the calendar, even if the date is hidden. Readiness ends the fantasy that a careful life will be rewarded with exemption. In this fragment, approaching life like one is ready to die means this. Mortality is no longer kept behind a curtain. Risk is no longer treated as a strange exception. There is no more private bargain with the universe that good behavior will purchase immunity. That posture is not suicidal. It is sober. It is the posture of a soldier who understands that the mission is dangerous and goes anyway. It is the posture of a patient who has heard the real diagnosis and chooses how to live inside it. It is the posture of anyone who has looked at their own end and decided to live in full view of it. Fear of death and fear of loss provide the main leverage the world has on a human being. There is fear of social death through shame, exile, or humiliation. There is fear of economic death through poverty, unemployment, or displacement. There is fear of bodily death through violence, disease, or accident. If survival and comfort sit at the top of the value hierarchy, fear can steer almost everything. People will betray their word to keep their position. People will abandon those they love to keep their safety. People will silence their conscience if speaking would cost them standing. Now place beside that the one who approaches life as ready to die. This person is not immune to fear. This person still feels terror, grief, and panic. However, the deepest negotiation has already been settled. This person has already conceded that survival is finite. This person has already conceded that no amount of caution guarantees longevity. This person has chosen something else as non-negotiable. When hardship strikes that person, the impact lands differently. The event does not get to rewrite their values from scratch. It can still damage and shock, but it cannot claim to be a cosmic mistake. It falls into a space where mortality was already acknowledged. The slogan uses the word stronger, but never defines it. That is where much of the trouble begins. Stronger can mean more calloused. Stronger can mean more cynical. Stronger can mean more armored and less capable of love. Stronger can mean quicker to hurt others preemptively. A person can endure horrors and come out of them more dangerous, not more whole. That outcome is common. Pain unprocessed tends to spread. The fragment implies a different definition of strength. Strength here is not simple toughness. Strength is the ability to remain faithful to what matters under pressure. Strength is the capacity to keep the heart from closing completely after impact. Strength is the refusal to let fear become the final architect of character. Approaching life like one is ready to die does not guarantee that form of strength. However, it creates the conditions for it. It sets up an inner structure in which suffering can deepen fidelity instead of destroying it. It means that when pain comes, it finds prior commitments that are not up for sale. The central hinge of the fragment sits in the line, then and only then do the terms apply. That is not just rhetorical flourish. That is precise. The unqualified slogan claims to be universal. It treats suffering as a dispensing machine. Insert one trauma, receive one upgrade in resilience. The fragment rejects that fantasy. It says that the outcome of suffering depends on prior orientation. It depends on the angle of approach. Two people can pass through a nearly identical event. One has arranged life entirely around the avoidance of loss. One has already signed inner papers accepting mortality and cost. Afterward, the first may say that nothing can be trusted now. The event is experienced as cosmically unfair. The world is read as a broken contract. The second may say that the event was worse than anything desired, but still inside the known range of mortal risk. For that person, the question becomes what remains worth keeping. The event is still terrible, but it sits inside an already accepted frame. Only in the second case do the terms of the slogan even have a chance of applying. There is a structure in place that pain can deepen instead of simply overthrowing. There is a darker use of the headline that the fragment quietly exposes. The slogan can be used to gaslight suffering. Leaders can point at broken people and say that hardship has made them stronger when all it has made them is compliant. Friends can use the line to avoid actually listening to grief. Individuals can repeat the slogan to themselves to avoid admitting that something has scarred them. The unspoken demand becomes simple. Take whatever happens. Call it growth. Smile about it. Caleb's fragment refuses this pious cruelty. By adding conditions, the fragment allows for a clear no. If the person was not living in honest readiness before the event, then the event may not be making them stronger at all. It may simply be hurting them. It may require care, not applause. The fragment restores the possibility of saying that something has damaged a person and that the damage is real. It stops the reflex move where survival is automatically converted into triumph. The fragment also forces a clearer picture of what approaching life like you're ready to die actually looks like in practice. It is not about thrill-seeking. It is not about contempt for safety. It is not about flirting with death for sport. Someone who approaches life under this sign might actually look calmer, not wilder. This person may plan carefully because time is recognized as finite. This person may take fewer stupid risks because the body is understood as a gift, not a toy. The difference shows up when conscience and comfort clash. A person who is ready to die can walk away from degrading security. A person who is ready to die can tell an unwelcome truth when silence would be profitable. A person who is ready to die can stand with the vulnerable when joining the strong would be safer. Such a person has placed their life on an altar rather than in a vault. Death will still arrive someday. Until then, every choice is measured not just by the question of harm, but by the question of faithfulness. Strength, in that setting, grows as a byproduct of loyalty, not as a trophy for surviving impact. The fragment also says something about the one who wrote it and the exercise that produced it. This began as an assignment to generate fragments. The response was not a joke or a shallow inversion. It was a surgical strike on a cultural cliché. There is an instinct here for moral geometry. There is a refusal to accept the first level of meaning as sufficient. There is an interest in the hidden contract built into everyday phrases, placed in an archive of fragments This one would sit well beside other work on vow, cost, and fear. It names the threshold that separates sentimental optimism from clear-eyed courage. It marks a line between lives organized around minimizing pain and lives organized around honoring what should not be betrayed. In the end, the fragment leaves a stark choice on the table. Either life is built on the attempt to stay untouched as long as possible, or life is built around the willingness to be faithful even when that faithfulness hurts. In the first case, the slogan is mostly a lie. What does not kill often deforms. There is no inner architecture ready to carry load. Pain becomes an architect of fear. In the second case, the fragment's condition can be met. A person lives with mortality acknowledged and cost accepted. When suffering comes and does not kill, it can carve deeper channels for courage, honesty, and love. The hurt is not erased. The loss is not glamorized. But something real is strengthened. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. When you approach life like you're ready to die, then, and only then, do the terms apply. The fragment does not rescue the slogan. It disciplines it. It insists that strength is not dispensed by suffering on demand. Strength emerges when a mortal life has already been offered to something larger than survival and then keeps that offer when the cost finally arrives.